Hi, I'm Shawn, and this is my 28-day build. I have a Ford Transit 2023. I switched to van life literally like a month ago. I bought my van in March, came down here, rented a bay from Jonnie, and then I was able to build out my van with the help of my grandparents as well as Jonnie, of course. Definitely turned out a lot better than I expected it to be, but also didn't really realize how much work actually went into building a van, so that was something new. So a really big thing with van life was learning and adapting to different needs and different desires. There's a lot of different things that I wanted to do with the van, or I still want to do with the van. So it's, I don't know, it's a constant project, it feels like, but at the same time it's not. It's like a finished working project. I don't know. The reason why I went with the layout that I did with my van is because I have a few things that are pretty important to me. I am a tattoo artist, so I needed a place to make sure I have all my tattoo stuff, as well as be able to live in here. I also wanted a functional table that can turn into a bed so that I can still host game nights, because game nights were pretty important to me. I like to play board games with my friends, so that was pretty important. A lot of space in here too, which is nice, because then I don't have to worry about tattooing a whole lot. I have plenty of space to work around. I also have, in one of my cabinets, it's actually just filled with like my gaming stuff. I have my PlayStation and my computer in there, and then I have a monitor mounted behind my cabinet. So that makes it nice to be able to play video games from either my bed when it's in a bed, or just from the couch. When it's like it is now as a couch, I can put my keyboard and mouse on the table and everything, so then it makes it pretty easy to use my computer. Otherwise, I've been using this little piece of wood for my sink as like a coaster. I'll put my keyboard and mouse on there sometimes when I'm playing on my PC. So it's really just kind of however lazy I'm feeling, because there's so many options that I can have. So with all the cabinetry and everything, it was kind of all learning as I went. I took a woods class when I was in high school, but that was many years ago, and I haven't done any real woodworking in a long time. So big learning curve with learning to work with wood again. The cabinet handles, I actually had my grandma braid and then put in there for me, because it's similar to what she did too, and I just kind of figured it was an easier route to go. A nice soft handle versus like a hard one where I could catch things on, so that's why I went with the rope handles. So I went with my fridge. It's on a slider right now, and it pulls out even further, but it's nice to have a little seat. I wasn't initially going to go with it looking like this, but then Jonnie suggested it, and I thought it was a really good idea. So it still pulls out. People can use it as a seat, which is great. It does go underneath my sink just a little bit, and then I have my gray water tank actually underneath my sink as well. It's just a 20-liter jerry can that I can empty. It has a quick release that, again, Jonnie helped design and fit that for me, which was great. So initially, when I was looking for stuff on Amazon before I even got down here for building my van, I saw this sink, and I noticed a lot of people in van life go with a big faucet. Go with a big faucet like this, and honestly, it's not the greatest, because when you're washing dishes or anything, the water kind of sprays all over. It's just too big for this kind of a sink in this kind of an area, so I wouldn't really recommend something like that. I do have to pull it out like this quite often to brush my teeth and everything, so a little bit of a nuisance, but it's not a huge deal. Just something to be aware of when shopping for faucets for your sink. I have a 36-gallon freshwater tank. It actually is one that fits over the wheel well, so that's underneath this cabinet as well as that bench down there. So it tucks away pretty well. I wanted to make sure I could use up as much space as I could, as much as possible, so I wasn't having too much wasted space, because that's obviously pretty important when you're in a small area. I do have 600 watts of solar on the roof, and then two 200 amp hour batteries for the storage. That's all underneath my other bench. I have a solar charge controller, an inverter, and then I also have a DC converter as well. So I kind of have the whole works. I didn't go with the Blue Eddy setup that Jonnie typically does. I kind of figured it would give me a little bit more energy to be able to play my video games and then still have electricity to do like tattooing, all my kind of hobbies and everything. I wanted enough power to do that and not have to be able to plug in somewhere. I wanted to be able to be completely off-grid. That's kind of the big thing with going into van life too, is I just wanted to be off-grid, get away from kind of everything, because everything's getting more expensive and just kind of out of hand. So for bathroom needs, I do have an Ogo composting toilet. That has been a little bit of a shift from using a typical toilet, of course, but it's really not that bad. You just have to make sure you take care of it before it gets too smelly. I don't have it vented out anywhere because I specifically wanted to keep up with it and take care of it when I need to. So one of the best parts about the whole van build was getting to go home and put all my stuff in it. I did have to downsize a lot more. I thought I lived pretty minimally, but apparently not. So I had to keep what was most important to me, and then had to get rid of some of the stuff that wasn't so important. So things like my pin collection I did keep. I was able to put it up on my net that I have on the ceiling as storage. I keep books, my vinyls, and everything in here. Unfortunately, I don't have a record player, but someday I want to somehow get that in here. Where it's gonna fit, I don't know, but I still have my vinyls for that specific reason. I live in my van with my cat Sid. Definitely was a little bit worried about it at first because of the whole cat litter box thing, but I switched to wooden pellets, and that kind of took care of the smell. So I mean, it doesn't really smell at all unless it's fresh. Then I either just take care of it or wait for her to cover it up. So with getting a cat and kind of transitioning to van life, when I got her, I knew I was going to be switching to van life, so I was training her ahead of time with like driving around in my car when I still had one, and then once I got the van, I kind of drove around a little bit with her in the van just to kind of acclimate her a little bit to it. And then once we got moved into the van, it's been pretty great. We've gone hiking so far. I've taken her kayaking for the first time just the other day, which was pretty interesting. And then we go, I go hammocking quite a bit, and I take her and put her in my hammock with me, and she hangs out for a little bit sometimes, but then she runs off and does her own thing. Luckily enough, Jonnie offered me a job to work for her here at Midwest Van Builders, so that's what I've been doing as of recently, and it's actually been a lot more convenient because then Sid can kind of come in and out of the van as she needs to. She's not stuck in a vehicle all day, which gets pretty hot. Even with that AC I have in here, it still hits like 75, 80 in here, which is still pretty warm to me anyways. I'm sure Sid would be fine, but still pretty hot. So that's my van tour. Thanks for checking it out. I do make my own TikTok videos with my cat Sid. I just post things specifically, kind of more around my cat than anything, but a lot of it was the van build as well. So if you want to check any of that out, it is van. My TikTok is Van Cat Sid, all one word. And huge thank you to Johnny's Journey as well as my grandparents. I could not have done this without them. So again, huge thank you to them for that.